Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be talking about Brad Pitt. Now the thing with Brad Pitt is that if you've been following anything to do with that family since the flight in 2016, I believe it was, there has been a lot going on. So I'm going to briefly refer to the flight in 2016 on the private jet, and if you don't know about all of that, look into it, but the brief recap will be mentioned in this video of what all occurred allegedly. Everything is alleged. Since then, there have been new updates about Brad Pitt and his general behavior that has been qualified as abusive and violent. You can make of this what you will, you can believe it or not. People were getting very worked up about this in the comment sections I've seen, so I'm just saying, make of this what you will. I'm telling you what's out there. So I've gathered information from multiple different articles. They'll all be linked down below, but I am taking pieces from here and there to make as cohesive an understanding as possible. So Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's adopted son, Pox, 19, called his father a world-class asshole and despicable person who makes his 4 youngest children tremble in fear in explosive Instagram rant. Again, Brad Pitt's son called Pox's father a world-class asshole who makes his 4 youngest children tremble in fear in an explosive Instagram rant posted for Father's Day 2020. The star has found it depressing to see this dragged up, according to sources close to him, who went on to rubbish the claims. But in a cutting post, Pox wrote, and then they quote bits and pieces of the post. I'm just gonna read you and show you the whole thing. So it says, "Happy Father's Day to this world-class asshole. You time and time again proved yourself to be a terrible and despicable person. You have no consideration or empathy towards your 4 youngest children who tremble in fear in your presence. You will never understand the damage you have done to my family because you are incapable of doing so. You have made the lives of those closest to me a constant hell. You may tell yourself and the world whatever you want, but the truth will come to light someday. So happy Father's Day, you fucking awful human being." So that's what Pox said in the post. So then it gives a little bit of Pox's history, which I'm not going to super get into because it's not necessarily relevant. But it says Angelina Jolie adopted Pox from an orphanage in Vietnam in 2007. He was 3 years old and had been dumped as a newborn by his heroin-addicted biological mother. Brad formally adopted him the following year. When Pitt, 59, and Jolie, 48, split in 2016, just 2 years after they'd married in a private ceremony in France, the children stayed with their mother amid reports of an altercation aboard a private jet between the eldest son, Maddox, and his father. Now it is clear the relationship between Pox and Pitt is also troubled, with the 19-year-old accusing his dad of making his life quote-unquote hell in the extraordinary social media rant. Pox posted the broadside at Pitt to the stories section of his private Instagram account when he was 16. He accompanied it with a photo of Brad receiving an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 4 months earlier. A source has confirmed the private account does belong to Pox. It's the account he uses for friends from school mostly. He never says much about his parents, keeps to himself, so that was unusual. Pox did not say if there was a specific event that had set him off or whether it was a culmination of years of tension. So all of this is already a lot. Tendentially speaking, yes, we know that I don't automatically believe anyone saying anything, right? I think we need to look at the evidence we have and come to a conclusion. Now, since the 2016 flight, I had my little alarms going on in my head because realistically, in that particular situation, why would anyone be lying about that? And specifically, why would any of the children lie about that? As children turn into adults, if someone is malevolent, they're trying to get money, whatever, I can imagine a situation where someone would lie. But at a younger age, yes, children can lie, duh. But I don't really see what the expectation was. Like, a 15-year-old, and that's just a made-up age, but a 15-year-old, you wouldn't expect them to think that they'd be paid off for their silence. A 20-year-old might be. I didn't think anyone was lying there. I think that everything that they claimed happened on the flight happened. And my alarm bells went off when that all came to light, because did I believe that was a one-off? No, absolutely not. I'd like to think so, but realistically, that happening on a plane with technically other people there, because yeah, duh, it's the captain. So like they're worried about other things like keeping the airplane in the air. But still, if you're willing to do it, quote unquote, in front of witnesses or witnesses there, I can't believe that's your first time. I don't know. That's just me. I could be entirely wrong. You guys can let me know what you think about that. Anyway, we're going to jump forward. So another point of contention is the winery. Brad and Angelina owned this winery together. Angelina did not want to have anything to do with the winery anymore since what happened with Brad Pitt. And so she wanted to just get rid of it and move on. It turned into a whole shit show because apparently they were both supposed to agree who she was going to sell her half of the winery to. It's honestly not very interesting, the whole winery thing. Regardless, because of everything that happened with the winery, Brad Pitt, who was going to get partial custody, actually didn't. Custody was returned to Jolie with Pitt allowed custodial visits only, when originally he had or was supposed to get 50-50. Okay, so the kids went back with Jolie after the whole winery fuckery. So then it also says that Pitt was investigated by the FBI and the Los Angeles Department of Children and Family Services over child abuse allegations following the alleged altercation with Maddox on the private jet 5 days before Jolie filed for divorce. So everything that happened on the jet was like the last drop that made the glass overflow. He was cleared of any type of allegations of child abuse, all of that. He was cleared. So in the flight, I told you I'd give you a little summary of what happened in this flight since it's such a big deal, not only because of the alleged abuse that occurred, but also because it was such a big turning point. Maddox is said to have stood up for Jolie during a fight with his parents. A source later told People Pitt had been drunk at the time, adding there was an argument between him and Angelina. There was a parent-child argument which was not handled in the right way and escalated more than it should have. Jolie told authorities Pitt had behaved like a monster on the jet. So last thing I'm gonna say is in terms of the flight, I want to be very clear about what Jolie's lawyers alleged Pitt did. So Pitt allegedly grabbed Jolie by the head and shook her, and then grabbed her shoulders and shook her again before pushing her into the bathroom wall. The suit claimed that Pitt started deriding Jolie with insults, and then when one of the kids defended Jolie, the actor lunged at his own child, and Jolie grabbed him from behind to stop him. Pitt then threw himself backwards into the airplane seats, injuring Jolie's back and elbow. The suit continued. The children rushed in and all bravely tried to protect each other. Before it was over, Pitt choked one of the children and struck another in the face. Some of the children pleaded with Pitt to stop. They were all frightened. Many were crying. So when we're talking about this flight, I think it's important to address that what occurred there was not some silly little thing. It wasn't just an argument. It really was something that is traumatizing and scary on so many levels, if what is said is true. Again, we have the big word allegedly here. Pitt was subsequently cleared of all the charges, as I said, and he quit both booze and smoking cannabis. He went to AA meetings in September 2016. Although neither Pitt nor Jolie ever spoke publicly about the incident, Jolie told Vogue in 2021 that she had dumped Pitt for the well-being of her family. She added, "It was the right decision. I continue to focus on their healing. Some have taken advantage of my silence, and the children see lies about themselves in the media, but I remind them that they know their own truth and their own minds. In fact, they are 6 very brave, very strong young people." So then there's an update about, I said winery, I should have said the vineyard. It was a vineyard. Apologies. She also said in relation to the vineyard that Brad was a bully who acted emotionally, irrationally, and ultimately illegally over the vineyard, and he accused her of staging a hostile takeover of the business. So the only reason I'm pointing that out is to just show the animosity that's there from both sides, but specifically the fact also that Angelina said that he'd acted emotionally, irrationally, and illegally. Now, this is all he said, she said. That's why I'm saying this is all alleged. You can come to your own conclusions, but to me, it also says something if even with children in the picture, he seemed to not want to end it amicably. And people could say the same thing about Angelina Jolie. They could say that she's the one who's causing all this mayhem, but it could also be somewhere in the middle. It could be very true that the thing on the plane happened, and it could be true that she's rightfully so angry and isn't taking any more shit. Who knows? In terms of why we're talking about this now Angelina Jolie is claiming that Brad Pitt had a history of physical abuse. She's claiming that the abuse started, quote unquote, well before the highly publicized 2016 incident on the plane, in which the actor was allegedly violent towards his then wife and children. While Pitt's history of physical abuse of Jolie started well before the family's September 2016 plane trip from France to Los Angeles, this flight marked the first time he turned his physical abuse on the children as well. Jolie then immediately left him. Now, I think we can all agree that Jolie is an icon, and I don't mean that in a ha-ha hee-hee way. Truly difficult thing to do, but to leave immediately, extremely smart. And I say it's a difficult thing to do because we see so many cases where people get trapped and can't leave and things devolve. So it says, the motion to compel seeks communications from Pitt and his company Mondo Bongo related a non-disclosure agreement Jolie's team says the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood actor wanted her to sign as a condition of buying her shares. It was filed as a part of the former power couple's ongoing legal battle over Chateau Miraval, the winery. Again, I told you the winery is just this recurring thing. So Jolie's attorney also accused Pitt of unrelenting efforts to control and financially drain her, as well as attempting to hide his history of abuse, control, and cover up. Mr. Pitt refused to purchase Miss Jolie's interest in the winery when she would not be silenced by his NDA, Jolie's lawyer Paul Murphy said in a statement to USA Today Thursday. By refusing to buy her interest but then suing her, Mr. Pitt put directly at issue why that NDA was so important to him and what he hoped it would bury: his abuse of Miss Jolie and their family. I will say this. I think NDAs, I'm not going to say get a bad rap, because a lot of the times NDAs that we see, at least in the news, have a horrible reason. Like, there's so many NDAs out there that we see that are put in place to take advantage of people, to protect people, not in a good way, to protect people from getting the consequences of their own actions. I don't think it's correct to assume that NDAs are necessarily bad, because there are some cases where it just makes sense, in my opinion. Like, if you're going to visit a celebrity, the celebrity doesn't know you well, they might ask you to sign an NDA to not disclose where they live or something along those lines, right? That's not that strange. In this case, an NDA is suspicious because what do you not want disclosed? Like, if we're talking about the fucking winery, what are you worried about? It's bizarre, right? Because it's like, imagine we're arguing about a winery. I want to sell it. You don't want me to sell it to person X and Y. So you say that you'll buy it, but then you're also like, oh, also sign this thing that stops you from talking about all of these things. It's like, wait, why is all of this coming up? What does this have to do with the winery? Now, obviously, my understanding is extremely basic because I'm not there. I'm not in their house. I only have the information that's available to the public. But I will say that it appears very strange to me. To me, the question is, what are you afraid is going to come out? And as the article said, his abuse. Allegedly. In the Thursday filing, Jolie's lawyers said she went forward with selling the property after Pitt stepped back from his agreement to buy Jolie's interest in Miraval, and the deal collapsed. Her team claims Pitt backed out after Jolie filed evidence under seal detailing the evidence of Pitt's domestic violence against Jolie and their children in their ongoing custody battle. Jolie's sealed filing, which included emails, summaries of the family's expected testimony, and other evidence, caused Pitt to fear that the information would eventually become public, according to the filing. As a result, her team claims Pitt changed course and suddenly conditioned his purchase of Jolie's share of Miraval on her agreeing to a greatly expanded NDA, now covering Pitt's personal misconduct, whether related to Miraval or not. Isn't it interesting that now the whole winery shit show, now that it's gone belly up, then he has the NDA amended to include that she can't discuss any misconduct of his. How convenient is that? And then also, of course, someone can always make shit up, right? But an NDA implies that there's actually truth that you do not want disclosed, right? An NDA isn't just like you signing a form being like, I promise I won't lie, XOXO. No, it's saying I'm not going to talk about the facts of whatever. So if she has to sign an NDA including any type of misconduct, Is that not saying that there was misconduct? And obviously there are different levels of misconduct. It could even just be verbal, it could be shouting, depending on even how we define misconduct. I'm just saying, to me, that's not necessarily an admission of all guilt, but definitely it's an admission that something somewhere went wrong enough that you don't want the public to know, and or that you know that the public isn't going to be understanding about. I do think it's interesting that all of this is coming to light once more, because as far as I recall, while the plane incident did make some waves, I never actually recall it turning into as big of a scandal as I expected, or at least where I lived. With what I saw, again, like I said, it never really turned into the massive, massive shit show I expected. And maybe it's also because today people react differently, maybe because of social media and how we treat social media differently than like 10 years ago. But really, I hope that this time, if we're going to talk about it, we talk about it quote unquote properly, just in the sense of that we don't just let shit go. And that doesn't mean to act like a psychopath on the internet, but also that if these things are coming to light, that we consider who it is we want to support, what we believe, what we don't believe, but to not just ignore it and pretend nothing's happening. Does that make sense? And I mean, if you want to do that, you can. No one's stopping you from ignoring anything. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Personally, I think he's at least guilty of some of it. I do think that what they said happened on the plane actually happened on the plane. I hope that he's changed since then. I don't really know how much people can change from things like that. I wouldn't know. But I definitely think that something is very wrong there. And the fact that all of his children want to stay away from him, except for Shiloh, who apparently now wants to go and live with him, something's up. Anyway, let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.